Hello, this is JJ Humphrey. I'm with Bobby Cleveland. It's Elephant in the Room, where we talk about subjects mainly with Oklahoma. Every once in a while, we get on some federal subjects, don't we, Bob?
Yeah, we do.
And today we're going to talk about a subject that nobody really wants to touch. And Bob, most of the time I'm kind of gung ho to go after folks. On this one, I got to admit I'm a little reluctant to go after them. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on it anyways, Bob. And that's today what we're going to talk about, Bob, is that the DAs have been collecting probation fees, also called 911 fees. Bob,
999 what, isn't it?
Yeah, you were talking about that. I can't remember. Bob, I really think, and I'd have to go back and look after me and you were talking about that. I think that that's the section of law that says they can't use that fee for anything.
Right.
But so they named it after that. They got a sense of humor. You got to admit that. But here's what we're talking about for our listeners. For the last I don't know, 13, 14 years, DAs have been collecting DA supervision fees, and they're doing absolutely no supervision. And so basically, somewhere around 2011, there was a DA there in Cleveland County, there at Norman.
Judge, wasn't it?
Huh?
Not a DA, was it a judge?
No, it's a DA. Mashburn, Greg Mashburn, actually filed a complaint against Judge Stice. So Judge Stice is special judge there. And what the complaint was that Judge Stice wouldn't accept their plea bargain. And the plea was they wanted to put this guy on probation because of DUIs. And the judge said, I'm going to give him probation, but I ain't giving him to you because you don't do any kind of supervision. You don't do treatment. You don't do testing. You don't do anything. All you do is collect money. You're just a money outfit, and I'm not giving y'all that case. And so he refused and put them on private probation. They filed a complaint and said the judge don't have authority to change their plea. Now, this is all my understanding. So the lower court said, yep, judge does have the right. Judge is the sentencing authority. So all the DAs together in the state went together and filed an appeal, and the appellate court come back and said, yes, the lower court is right. And they went out a little bit further, and I think this is a law that they used. We'd have to go back and check me on this. But they basically said that the $40 fee must be used for the actual act of supervision during the actual period of time that the offender is on supervision. Bob, what that means is you can't use that fee to fund your office.
Well, did they appeal that?
Well, no, that was the appellate court. They appealed it, and the appellate court ruled against them, and then come back and said, hey, not only are we ruling against you because the judge is the sentencing authority, but what they come back and said, oh, by the way, you can't use this money for anything but supervision. And so they used, that was in 2012, Bob, November 2012, and they've been using that money ever since then. And so somewhere around 2019, I filed a bill to get them to stop doing that. I knew that they put that bill in Canada's committee and judicial committee. I knew that was going to happen. So I go over to Canada and say, hey, how about we have a mediation on this? And anyways, in the mediation, hey, me and the DAs, me and the head guys on that DA deal just about go to blows. A guy named Trent Baggett. We were up arguing with each other. And I finally said, hey, just stop. Let's just stop. I said, hey, how much are y'all using? How much of this are y'all collecting to fund your office? And I laughed. They pulled out a tab right there. It's dang near, I mean, it's almost $19 million on the dot. And so, anyways, I got that little tab out there and looked at it. And I said, well, now, hold on. I said, it's funny because we had Greg Mashburn, we had old Trent. I said, we got the two guys, the guy that filed a lawsuit, and we got the guy that filed the appeal standing right in the room. And the appellate court told y'all you can't use that money to fund your office. So how are y'all funding that office? And then I said, before you answer that, let me ask you another question. I said, what's them charges y'all file on people? I said, what, you know what I'm talking about? The monetary, like embezzlement, stuff like that. I said, what's them things y'all call that? Elements of a crime. Y'all call that element? That's like knowingly, willfully, intentionally, maliciously violating the law. They got up and walked out of the room, Bob. They was mad. Old Kennedy walked across the around the table, looked at me, and he goes, hey, you're not as stupid as you look. And I was like, well hey, I'll take that as a compliment today. You know what I'm saying? So here's the deal, Bob. What we did right then was we went back to our budget and we gave them $19 million. So every year since then, we've been giving them an extra $19 million in their budget. So here's the deal. What I thought when we did that, I thought that would get them out of the supervision business. And they didn't. They just kept right on doing probation supervision. And again, my issue, Bob, is they're doing no supervision. So our state, when somebody gets caught with drugs, they don't get any kind of thing. All they got to do is pay money. Bob, let me ask you a question. If somebody's stealing, they get caught stealing, and you just tell them, hey, you don't change anything. You just tell them, you're going to end up having to pay me $40, and here's some fines, and here's some court costs. How do you think they're going to pay that, Bob?
I don't know.
Well, if you're making money by stealing, I'd say you'd have to up your game and steal a little bit more to pay your fees. If you're making money by selling dope, guess what? You're going to have to sell more dope. I mean, we're not changing any behavior. We're not doing any supervision. We're doing nothing. And again, they're collecting a fee for doing nothing. And I've had a burr under my saddle for the last, I don't know, Bob, 12, 11 years, something like that, over this. This is one of the main things I ran on. But here's the deal, Bob. When you go after them, boy, you're going after. I mean, it's like chasing a bear with a switch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so most people, in fact, Bob, I've had a lot of people say, JJ, you better leave them alone. You better not tackle that. So, Bob, what do you think?
Well, I think if they're not doing it, they're not doing it. It's just black and white. I mean, I don't believe that because you're a DA that you're above the law. Isn't that what they always say? You're not above the law.
Well, Bob, here's where I'm at. I'm for holding people who wear a badge and people who prosecute other people more account. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna hold anybody more accountable than somebody else, it's somebody who's took.
Well, JJ, but why hasn't the DA council gone to representatives Capitol there and had to get this changed? And like all these years, they've had a chance to change it. Why have they not done that?
Bob, I don't understand that because right now we give them $19 million out of their budget. So here's the deal, Bob. This is where it gets pretty hinky. Okay. And this, people are hearing us talk, and we kind of laid the groundwork right there that they're illegally collecting this money. It appears because the appellate court now let's get all our listeners to understand. The appellate court told the district attorneys filed and said, we ought to be able to get this money and we ought to be able to do our pleas. And the judge should have no authority to tell us what we can do and can't do. And the appellate court said, no, the judge is the authority and he can tell you. And two, you cannot use that money to fund your office. Now, that's the appellate court telling them it's illegal for you to use that money to fund your office. And they turn right around and for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, whatever it was, till I filed that bill, they used it and didn't back up a dime, didn't back up any. So they collected that money illegally for that period of time. And again, we're talking about DAs. We're talking about people who know the law. We're talking about people who were told direct on point from the appellate court, you can't do it. And they kept right on doing it. Now, that's to me willful, intentional. That to me shows just pure malice. It shows that, hey, I'm going to do whatever we want to do. And bam, I filed a deal and caught them, outed them. And again, Bob, I'll tell you this. I don't think they would have changed it just because I caught them. I think what they knew is that I would go to the media and I would raise Cain if they didn't change it. Now, I think that's because I couldn't get the law passed. You know what I'm saying? But they knew I wouldn't be quiet and sit still. So I think that's why they went back in and we changed this. So
What
we
you change
decided,
it?
huh?
You say you changed it. What was that?
Here's what we did, Bob. We went into the budget, to the capital budget, and we gave them $19 million more in their budget. Now, I would have thought they'll take you 19. Of course, I told our people they'll keep taking the 19 and they'll keep doing just what they're doing. Well, guess what? They took the 19, kept doing what they were doing. Well, Bob, I scratched my head. I'm scratching my head. Hey, why in the world? But I figured they're making twice the money. So the other day, I finally said, I got to go look. I'm going to go study this a little bit. So 3 or 4 days ago, I began to study it, Bob. And I started looking. Well, guess what? They set up a fund for a general fund. So instead of the DAs collecting this and spending it right there in their office like they were, now they're collecting it and they're sending it to a general fund. Then they take that general fund.
Whose general fund is it?
It's the DAs. So here's the deal. Let's give an example. So in Atoka, they will collect the fee in Atoka, and that'll go to the treasurer. Then the treasurer will send it to the head DA. So in our area, that would be Durant. Then they'll send it to now this is the way I understand it all works. So they send it to their DA general fund. So all the whole state DAs send it into one fund under what we call DAC, which is District Attorney's Council. So they all send it in District Attorney Council. So it goes from one account to another account to District Attorney Council. The District Attorney Council, my understanding, sends it to the Capital General Fund. So it goes back to the state. Then the state gives it back to them, and now they can use it for whatever they want. So they collect it. So here's the deal, Bob. They collect it illegally because the appellate court said you can't collect the fee unless you spend it on supervision. They're collecting it. They're putting it in one account, putting another account, put it in another account, send it to the Capitol. Capitol returns it and gives it back to them. Wash clean, do whatever you want with it. That's called money laundering all day long. That's what it looks like to me. Now, Bob, before I jumped on this, I laughed. I called up several law enforcement officers, and I didn't tell them, hey, I'm talking about the DA. I called and I say, hey, I got a group, and they're collecting illegal money. I know it's illegal money, so don't worry about how I know where it's illegal. But they're collecting it, and they're putting it in this fund, and then they're putting it in this fund, and they're putting it in this fund. And then they send it this last fund, and then because it goes through so many funds, nobody keep track of it. And then because it's in this fund that's legal to come back to them, they get it back. I said, what do you call that? Bob, every one of them has said money laundering. I talked to a judge. One of our good friends is a judge. I called him, and he said, is that a Ponzi scheme? I said, no, I think it's money laundering. He goes, I agree with you. That's what it is. He said, that's what that is. I called one of our good friends who's an attorney, as good as they get, and he agrees with me. And if he agrees with me, uh, I'm like, okay. So, Bob, here's where we're at. I'm not saying it's 100% because I don't have time to go track everything down. There may be something that I'm not aware of, some deal made, something. But, Bob, the appellate court said you can't collect the fee unless you use it to supervise, earmarked for supervision. They're collecting the fee. They're not using it for supervision. They're taking it and put it in general fund. They're taking it, putting our general fund. We're giving it back to them, and then they use it for whatever they want, is what it appears. Unless now, Bob, unless they can show, oh no, we're using that for actual act of supervision. I don't think that's what's happening. So, Bob, if you catch the district attorneys doing that kind of behavior, when you've already called them out on it one time, and now they're doing it again. I mean, do you think that, as an elected official, that you have an obligation to call that out, that you ought to say something on that?
I think you should.
Well,
I mean, you
Bob,
can call anybody else out, but I know the DAs. I've always heard they don't get enough money from the state, and from what they need to get the prosecutors and stuff. So I mean, I know and I do believe they don't get enough money. Now,
well,
why they don't get enough money, I don't know.
well, Bob, every one of these agencies are bloated and waste more
Well,
money.
every agency we got needs more money.
Every agency says they need more money. Bob, I will tell you this: they probably, as far as agencies that I see, that probably don't have a whole lot of waste. I don't think that they're probably, you know what I'm saying. I figure that they are. And Bob, here's the other deal: they are we need the DAs, and we need the DAs to be funded. And Bob, this has been going on for years. They've had to have a check scheme. They've had to have the probation scheme. Why should the DAs have to scheme to get money? Why should they have to get in some kind of other business to run their offices? That's total bullcrap. And again, here's what's funny, Bob. The DAs, when I come out with this, DA's going to hate my guts and they're going to think I'm after them. Of course, I did do a little funning on them, but here's the thing. Um, I'm for the DAs. I'm for funding the DAs. That's why I wanted to give them that 19 more million. Just give them 19 million and get them out of the business. Bob, not only is this wrong the way they're collecting it, and I tried to get an AG back there. I tried to tell Pruitt, that's how far back this has been going. I told Pruitt, and I had Pruitt give me an opinion, and he squirreled out of it because they're in bed together. But here's the thing. Uh, Number one, you're guaranteed under the Constitution. And now everybody gets elected and becomes an expert in the Constitution. I'm not an expert in the Constitution, although I've been around court probably more than most of our legislators up there, other than some of those lawyers that are in legislation. But here's the thing, Bob, you're guaranteed under Constitution to have a fair and objective court, meaning that when you go in front of somebody, they don't have something invested in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the deal. If I'm the DA and I'm looking at you and I'm trying to decide, do I file a charge on you or do I not file a charge on you? But I'm going to make money out of it. I'm going to get $40 a month off several thousand of who I charge. Guess what? And we're going to fund our office out of that way. Guess what? I'm going to start charging everybody. And I think you've seen that. When I first started, hey, me and you get in a fight and you slap me and I go up there and tell the DA, said, hey, he did slap me, but I said some stuff probably needed slapping. Me and Bob been good friends. We put this behind us. I don't want to see him charged. Well, guess what? Used to, they'd said, hey, we're going to drop that. Might make you pay a little court cost, but they'd drop it. It was done. Now, guess what they're going to do? DA probation, and they're going to sock you for 480 or 960 is what they're going to sock you. But then you get court costs. You get all other kinds of costs there, fine, whatever. Plus, you got to be on supervision. And if you go out and get in any little trouble, here you go again. And Bob, uh, when we look at the probation, most of the time when you're looking at probation and you're filing revocations, the revocations are on. So that means for people listening, you're filing because they messed up and you're going to revoke that probation. And most of those revokes and revocations, what they call them, they're because of like new crimes, not going along with, get caught drunk, get caught dirty UAs, and you're doing it to prevent them from going out and getting more crime, more crime, more crime. Guess what? What you're seeing, all the revocations on DA probation, what do you think they're for, Bob?
What are you talking about getting the $40?
Oh, yeah, it's all money. So the only thing they file revocation in DA supervision on, practically, they may have filed on one or two cases, but most of the time, what you're seeing revocations filed is because they ain't paid their money. And that's it. It is a money generated mechanism. It is not supervision. Again, the state of Oklahoma is harmed by this because what we see is people commit a crime, commit another crime, commit another crime. And instead of being revoked, what they're being is DA probation, DA probation, DA probation, $40, $40, $40, $40. Now, when I had probation, Bob, if you had 10 cases, I charged you $140 fee because you're just one person. I'm just supervising one person, charged you $40. Didn't matter how many cases. If you had 20 cases, I'm still charging you one fee,
Right.
$40. So again, it's a messed up. Uh, Bob, not only do they decide who gets charged, and again, they're not biased because they're making money out of the deal. So now you got a biased court system in charging you. But guess what? They're going to offer you in the plea bargain.
What?
Themselves. They're going to go, we're going to offer you DA supervision. So how do you make a fair plea bargain when you are the plea bargain? You know what I'm saying? You can take that would be if I was in private business. Well, Bob, you can have J.J. Humphrey's probation. Well, guess what? What am I going to offer? I'm going to offer myself every time. That's ridiculous. And that's the system we got. And
Hey,
Bob,
JJ, uh, seriously, I don't know this answer. Now, I know you know it, but uh, when the DAs do something wrong, they go out and get another judge to come in to hear the case, so that about them.
right.
Okay. So, but is there somebody in charge of the DAs in anywhere?
Well, Bob, here's the deal. Anytime that we see something like this go on, whether it's the DAs, judges, we're going to go back to the Attorney General. Your problem is that the Attorney General works with all of these people. They all know each other, all law school. So for the Attorney General to jump on something like this is going to be really, really tough for them most of the time. So a lot of times, what you're going to see, this can be punted back to the federal AG. So you ask the feds to come in and look at that when it's this a magnitude like this. And Bob, if you remember back in the day when we had all the county commissioners that got in so much trouble across the state,
Yeah.
you'll remember the feds stepped in on that one
Yeah.
and did that. And there is a arm of the federal government, the FBI, that does state corruption, county, government is what they say, government corruption. And Bob, here's where I'm at. I don't know that a lot of the DAs currently even know this. You know what I mean? I don't know that they've thought they should. I mean, that's kind of like if you were driving down the road and said, well, I wasn't aware I was driving 70. I wasn't aware I was driving 80. And you may not be aware of it. You may, hey, look, I've looked down at the speedometer and be driving 90. Didn't know it, and go, gummit, boy, I got to suck off that gas right there, man. But now if that trooper stopped me and I go, yeah, but hey, I had my head in the clouds. Yeah, well, let me give you something that'll help you get that head out of your cloud. Do you know what I'm saying? pull that head out, And so,
Well, what needs to be done to correct this?
well, Bob, I first of all, I think you got to stop collecting the fee. Second of all, I think you've got to create a new system, and I have introduced a totally new system that just scorch earth what we've got and creates a totally new system. It gets us all right now, Bob. We're so messed up. We got DOC doing some. We got DAs doing some. We got mental health doing drug court. We got community sentencing. So we've got 4 different groups. We're paying for 4 different administrations. None of them doing worth the crap. None of them do the same thing. None of them do good supervision. Here's what we need to do. We need to create, and you can look at a model at Texas, create judicial districts, create districts that have their supervision, create a standard across the state, get on the same page, but allow each district, because what Oklahoma City can offer, we can't offer in Atoka. So while we all have the same rules, we can have a little different flair and we can come up with our own system. Take the money and get it, the money you would save by getting rid of 4 administrations, have one small group to make sure everybody's doing everything they're supposed to. And then all the money goes directly to those communities to actually supervise. And we've got a board set up to hire and all that.
Was every DA in the state doing this?
Bob, not every. In fact, I'd say Oklahoma City, Tulsa probably aren't. I think they have somebody. Cleveland County may not. A lot of their supervision will be going to private supervision, but throughout the majority of the state will be collecting probation fees and turning it in. And again, we're giving them 19 million. Bob, here's what's funny. The people who were there when we set that up are no longer there. And the people who are there now may have not went, look here, look here, look here. Holy smokes, look here. It's possible they never even looked at this. So again, I'm not so much.
What's the total dollar?
Yeah, here's the deal. What I'm about is fixing the system. I'm not about, hey, let's throw a bunch of people in jail. That's not what I'm asking for. Although I think it is a pretty black eye when, you know what I'm saying? Bob, it's not good when you're the top law enforcement agency in your state and you're taking money and you were told multiple times you can't do it. And again, I mean, do you really need, Bob, if you were charging people hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars for a service that you know you weren't providing, do anybody really got to tell you that's not a good deal?
Yeah.
And Bob, if you're deciding whether those people are going to be charged, does anybody need to tell you that's a conflict? The people who are in charge ought to be the first ones standing up and saying this is a conflict. The people who are in charge ought to be the first ones to say that, hey, this money has to be used here. They're the ones that you walk in and go, hey, would you look at this and tell us that this is legal? Would you look at this and tell us if it's legal? So again, the people we look to be legal. Hey, Bob's leaving us, it looks like. So why Bob is leaving us, I don't know where Bob decided to go. I guess his old dog must have messed up or something. But while Bob's going to walk off, I'm going to read this letter that I'm thinking about sending to the Attorney General.
No, you're not getting nothing.
I hope Bob can listen to it so he can give me his opinion as to whether that I ought to. Bob.
Did you even know I left?
Bob, man, I was fixing to read a deal to you and you just walked away. What's the deal? Hey, Bob, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm thinking about sending a letter. So I've drafted up a letter to send to the Attorney General, Drew Edmondson. So I'm going to read it. You tell me what you think and whether you would send it. Bob, I'm also...
What did you say there? The Attorney General?
Yeah. But I'm thinking about...
You said another name.
Oh,
thought you called it another name.
No, Attorney General. But
Okay.
I'm also thinking about when I send that to send it to the media and go, J.J. Humphrey sends letter to the Attorney General. So I may do that as well. So here we go, Bob.
All right.
It says, Attorney General Gittner Drummond, I recently conducted an examination of the collection of probation fees by the state district attorneys and discovered issues that appear very worrisome and possibly illegal. I'm requesting that you examine the district attorney's collections of probation fees to determine if my concerns are warranted. It is my understanding that in approximately 2011, Cleveland County District Attorney Greg Mashburn filed a judicial complaint against Cleveland County Special Judge Stice. The basis of the complaint was that Judge Stice refused to place a DUI offender on DA probation. The DAs believed that Judge Stice did not have the authority to change the plea agreement. The lower court ruled that the judge is a sentencing authority and does have the right to determine the supervising authority. However, the District Attorney Council, DAC, appealed the lower court's decision. In November 12, 2012, in the case of Mashburn versus Stice, the appellate court ruled that the lower court was correct and that the judge does have the right to determine the supervising authority. Conversely, the court provided additional instructions to wit. The $40 fee must be used for the actual act of supervision during the actual period of time the offender is on supervision. Despite the appellate court's ruling, the district attorneys continued to collect probation fees, use these fees to fund their office. The DAs were directly instructed by the appellate court that the fees must be used for the actual act of supervision, but the DAs knowingly, willfully, and intentionally ignored the court order and illegally collected and misused probation fees. In approximately 2019, I, State Representative Justin J.J. Humphrey, filed legislation to force the district attorneys to stop misusing probation fees. It was my understanding the bill would be dropped and the state would provide the DAC with additional funding of approximately $19 million. This would allow the DAs to get out of offender supervision. However, the DAs continued to conduct offender supervision and collect offender supervision fees. A review revealed that the district attorneys are continuing to collect probation fees in the same manner. However, these probation fees are now directed into a DAC general fund. I've been advised that the DAC general fund is then directed to our state general budget. After being received by the state, it is then returned to the DAs. By providing the state, because the state is providing the $19 million back to the DA, it can be used to fund their office. My fear is that the district attorneys across state have illegally collected probation fees for approximately 11 years. The fees have never been applied to the actual act of supervision as the appellate court directed in their order. In my calculations is correct, that would mean district attorneys illegally have collected approximately $209 million. In an additional fear is the technique used to move probation fees from the DAC general fund to our state general fund and then back to the DAs to be used for funding. This technique appears like a very calculated plan and absolutely appears to be along the lines of money laundering scheme. The money appears to have been illegally collected, moved through several accounts, and then washed by transference. A further concern, what is the probability that the prosecution arm of the government has knowingly, willfully, intentionally ignored a judgment of the court? Oklahoma has taken money from the offenders and offered no behavioral change, no treatment, and no supervision in return. The lack of criminal supervision has harmed all Oklahomans. My final thoughts from a layman's view. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I feel obligated to include a wise old saying. He who takes what isn't his'n, must pay it back or go to prison. I hope you will investigate this matter. It is time Oklahoma stop forcing district attorneys to fund their office through illegal schemes, and time Oklahoma adopt a real plan to completely reform Oklahoma criminal justice system.
Well, I think that'll get some attention.
I don't know, Bob. You think it's going to get me shot or killed?
I don't think that'll happen to you. But yeah, I was real surprised when you mentioned this before a couple of days ago, or however last week, because you've always been supportive of the DAs, and I know you still are.
Bob, I'm supportive of the DAs 100%, but I don't think they ought to be in an illegal business.
Right.
And Bob, tell me, I mean, what you understand of it. I mean, is it not a money laundering scheme? If you collect,
it seems like it is on the surface. That what I see, and as a legislature, I think you'd fall down on your duty if you wasn't that you let this go, because nobody's above the law.
no.
It's just that simple. And if the DAs need more money, then the legislature needs to give them more money. They need to show them why they need more money, but they need it. They need it. And they got it because we got the money in their legislatures now that they should be able to get this money.
I agree, Bob. Here's the deal. I'm saying let's change the criminal justice system. Let's get the DAs out of supervision. They never should have been there to start with. And let's fund them. Let's fund them 100%. And let's let them prosecute. And let's give them the ability to prosecute. Right now, hey, it's misdemeanor, 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 misdemeanor. Let's put some money back and let's put some money in the county jail where we can actually keep people in county jail. Let's put some money into treatment centers to where we actually have a treatment center. Hey, let's have a conversation about putting some grants out there.
Hey, speaking of that, I heard, I don't know if I heard it right or not, but I asked somebody and they heard it the same way, that the DOC, a couple of high people in the DOC, were talking about inmates from the county jails to the DOC. And DOC saying they get a busload of people and take them to the county jail. From the county jails, they get them and take them to the Department of Corrections.
Right.
Now, is that true?
My understanding, yeah. I mean,
they do that.
Well, here's the deal.
I always thought that the sheriff took them to
Some sheriffs do. We got in a lawsuit several years ago. I think we actually even passed the law out of that, Bob, right after you left up there, I think. Because what was happening is that the county was hauling these prisoners up there. Well, these prisoners are DOC prisoners. They've already been sentenced to DOC, and DOC was saying, they're not ours till you get them up here. Well, that's not true. The day they were sentenced, they become theirs. Yeah. And so DOC was going to have to go pick them up. And my understanding, like in large jails, say Oklahoma City, they may run a bus over there and get a large bunch of them and run back, not very far. But most of your rural still haul them up there, and they pay them to haul them up there. So I think a little bit of both, Bob. I think that they can go get them. They're their prisoners if they want. But they do. Most of your sheriffs still haul.
The DOC, the jails are always screaming about, hey, we've got these guys in here. We need you to pick them up, and they don't pick them up.
Yeah, Bob, I've ran a bill the last 2 or 3 years that basically says that DOC has the 3 working days to, once they're notified, they have 3 working days to pick those up. Now, if a jail wants to keep them for them and hold them 2 months, that's fine. But if they got somebody that's causing them problems and they need them out of there, they got 3 days to pick them up. I passed that out of the House 2 to 3 times. Every time gets over there to Senate. That's a really good bill, and every time gets over there to Senate and gets held up every time you turn around.
I don't think they understand it.
No. So yeah, it's very frustrating. Well, the last 2 times, Bob, it's got held up. Hadn't been about a misunderstanding. It's that or I'd have to see if DOC goes over there. It's possible they go over and get them to hold it. But I know on one occasion it got held up because and I think on two occasions it's got held up because the Senate is fighting. Last year they were fighting over the driver's license issues, wanting to give illegals, so they were about split 50-50, and they got really mad at each other. The year before it was an educational bill. Last year educational deal was involved in, so it was still that 50-50 was still fighting over education, and then they're fighting over. So it's been for the last 2 years, the Senate's been pretty much split 50-50. Hard to get something done.
All right, we'll go back to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, Bob,
you're saying, hang on,
grab it right there.
Hang on. You're saying it's $206 million.
$209 million, Bob.
$209 million. Well, JJ, that's really not chicken feed.
No, Bob, that's and again, what do you do? I mean, here's the thing where I'm at. This money's been illegally collected from the people. They paid for a service they didn't get. The appellate court said you can't charge them for this service that you're charging for without you fund them right back. The way to fund them.
What if they refuse to pay that $40? What would happen?
Well, that's when they're getting revoked, and they go to jail, or they
Then that's another $40.
No, they can either. What happens is they bring them into the court, and what happens most of the time when you get a warrant issued for you, and you come into the court, and the court says you either start paying this 40 or we're gonna put you in jail. Guess what? Most people find the 40 and go ahead and pay it. So that's what's happening. Now, if somebody said I ain't paying it, they go to jail.
Huh.
So people have been, Bob, let me ask you a question. If you were incarcerated and you were put in jail on an illegal fee, what would be your mindset?
I wouldn't want to pay the $40.
Well, but here's the deal. Let's say you didn't want to pay it, and the judge put you in jail for a year because you refused to pay, or put you in jail for a month or 3 months. Let me ask you something. Is that legal? Did they improperly incarcerate you? Did they take your freedom away from you illegally because they're charging an illegal fee?
So they're doing your civil rights.
Absolutely, Bob. I need to call our good lawyer friend and ask him that question. If I'm incarcerated on an illegal action, on an illegal fee, do I have the right to sue that county, sue the state of Oklahoma for my incarceration, for my loss of freedom, which again, like you say, is a civil rights violation? And I would say absolutely, and that's what's going on. And Bob, that's what I've been screaming from the top of my lungs ever since you've known me, Bob. I've been on this issue saying this is so egregious, this is wrong, and we've got to do something about it. And again, Bob, I would send that to the DA on the down low. I mean, the AG. You could send it to the DA and they would ignore you. I have raised Cain with them forever. They have ignored me. I can send it to the AG. I've sent it to AG Pruitt. He ignored me. I've sent a rape thing over to the AG, and they kind of ignored that.
I don't think that Drummond will ignore you. He'll make a decision on it, but he.
I don't think he'll ignore me, Bob, but I don't think he'll do anything, to tell you the truth. If I thought he would do anything, I would send that over quietly and just go, hey, let's work this out. But they ain't going to do anything. So again, my thoughts are put it out in the media and say, Humphrey sends AG a letter saying, hey, it looks like money laundering. Only looks like it because, like I said, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, she's a duck. And so, again,
you do what you got to do. I mean, you uncovered a lot of. I guess I would say I don't think this is corruption, but you have uncovered a lot of corruption the last couple of years in the state.
A lot of wrongdoing. Yeah, I don't
That's a
say
better
the rape
word.
is necessarily corruption. I
But
think
wrongdoing, that's a
wrong.
better word.
Yeah, I think they just ignore the whole system and say, you know what, we got bigger things to do. They're all adults. They had sex. Let's
Well,
move
I
on.
heard stuff the other day on DHS on the news that they what they were doing, and
Bob, I've got a meeting with DHS on the 12th, and I can tell you, I've got several people going over a lot of stuff with that, and it's just a lot of problems. Bob, I hope that I hope that new director really wants to change. But again, I'm not holding my breath till I see real change. I'm gonna get excited when we actually see change. But here's the deal, Bob, and you know this from sitting where I've sat and you've sat where I've been. You can only do what you can do. I don't have the authority to go in and make DOC do anything. And all I can do is expose it, expose it, expose it, run bills to try to change it. Hey, I got a whistleblower bill this year to try to help people come out, not be afraid, come out and tell all these
that was
wrongdoings.
held up last year.
And we've tried to run that before and they've killed it. I'm going to try it again. We're going to run it again. I've got a bill that says if a state elected official wants to go into a prison, talk to a prisoner. Bob, I'd like to go down there right now and talk to prisoners, but I don't want to tell them, hey, I'm coming to talk to them and have them go down there and threaten them before I get there. You know what I'm saying? Which I fully think would happen. That's what I truly believe. And, again, I don't want to come and announce, oh, I'm coming down there so that they can get it all, and have proper staff. I want to go down there when I'm being told that there's only 3 people there to run the whole joint or something. That's what I want to go see. Is this going on? And again, we're told that's a bunch of lies. Okay, maybe it is, but let me go find out. Because guess what? I don't believe them any more than I believe. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I believe staff over a whole lot of the administration. And the thing about it is I don't believe anybody till they verify it. Bob, everything I try to do, I try to get verified. We go on and we have these Facebooks 2 times a week. And again, Bob, just like here, if you read this letter, I'll say it's my understanding. It's my understanding this is what happened in 2011. My understanding this is what I'm saying is go back and check, see whether I'm right. But I do know some of it's right because I know I filed that bill. I know I sat in a meeting with them. I know we give them 19 million. I've got the email that says, hey, we're getting this into our account and it's going into your general account. So about 90% of this, I pretty much got verified. Now if there's something I've missed, I'm all open if I'm wrong.
Well, uh, is the state partially involved in this for going along with this scheme?
We're the ones set up the account and we're the ones set it up to go that way. So I was the one set that up. Somebody set it up. And so, I don't see. Here's the deal, Bob. This is a pretty complicated little deal. How they set 19 million to go, how you're going to reverse that and bring it back into our budget. We're going to get that and go. I don't think it happened by accident. It seems like a pretty intelligent scheme to me. Seems like somebody that's pretty smart come up with that little, did they do it by accident? Kind of like Joe Biden's accidentally opened the border, I guess, probably the same thing, I suppose so. But that's where I would say, I'll give them credit. It was pretty good scheme. It's pretty good little deal. Ain't nobody gonna catch it. Who's gonna catch this, Bob? There ain't nobody, because when you look at, well, we're giving them our budget. So it's coming out of our budget. They can spend it any way they want. Who's going to even think about, oh, well, these are probation fees. They're being collected illegally. Now, I knew that, but I couldn't see the whole thing. And the other day I got mad over another deal, over something else that happened. I got a little aggravated and I asked to have this fund. I wanted to see this fund. Where's it going? And they sent it to me and I got it and I looked and, I was like, and I got out there and I was hauling some hay It's amazing how it comes. I'm out there doing nothing, didn't even have this on my mind, and it come to me. It's like they're just circling that around, putting it right back in the account. It's washed clean, and now they can use it for whatever they want. It's a money laundering scheme. And again, that everybody may look at me like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. That's what it is. I mean, when you wash it, when you do it and you collect it illegally, and they are, and you put it in account and account, and then you stick it in account where now it's washed clean and you can use it the way you want. It's money laundering all day long. I don't care how you break it down. And so, Bob, it's not right. I mean, somebody had to come up with this. It ain't right, and I think that I am gonna go out and Bob. It'll probably cost. I mean, I figured catch some hellacious heat off of it. I'm gonna catch some heat, but Bob, I ain't never been too scared of a little heat.
Well, if you do something, you catch heat when you get something done. It's
Well, if I leave up there, if I get beat, if this thing beat me, I'll be able to leave with my head held up. I won't have to duck my head. That's kind of like you. Everything you did up there, I mean, hey, you didn't have to back up on nobody. You don't have to duck your head. You called. I ain't never been around. In fact, first time I met you, Bob. Now the first time I met you was down there at that store.
yeah, that convenience store.
But the second time I met you was when we were all in caucus, and I'm sitting in there, and what was that old gal? She wouldn't call on me or
yeah.
one, so she was the head person up there, and you raised your hand. She wouldn't call on you. Finally said, "Mr. Speaker, I want to know why she ain't never calling on me. I'm sick of this crap." And he's like, "Calm down, Bob." And you got up and that big old glass door, you slammed that glass door, it shook. I said,
"Well, I was scared I'd go break that glass."
I thought you broke it. And I laughed. I was like, "Who in the crap is that?" And I've laughed because Bob, half the same ones that didn't like you, she didn't like you, and she didn't like me. I mean, whoa, I can't even remember her name.
No, she was okay. She just didn't like us. That didn't like the questions and told me I asked too many questions. But I thought that's what we're supposed to do is ask questions.
Well, she didn't like me because I wouldn't vote for her. She wanted to run for something, and I told her I wouldn't vote for her. I was going to vote for Todd Russ, and she got mad at me on that, and that's why she never called on me. I never did anything to her, you know what I'm saying? And I liked her. She's all right. Had a little old piece of joint, nice piece of joint there in Oklahoma City. I liked her plenty well. She's nice enough individual, but boy, she apparently didn't like me and apparently didn't like you. I tell you, I'd always sit by George Fott, and I'd elbow him and say, "Hey, raise your hand." "What for, JJ?" I said, "I want to speak," but she won't call on me. Raise your hand. He'd raise his hand and say, "Well, you won't call on JJ," so he has me raise. I laugh.
Well, I didn't know that she wasn't calling on you.
Oh yeah. She's mad at me too. She's mad at you. And then we had another chairman that was mad at both of us. So, Bob, you've stood up, and I'm gonna stand up, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and send this in. I think I'm gonna go ahead and send it in media, like I've written it up, and see what we can what we can get done.
Well, I think the taxpayers would like to see something on this.
Well, I don't expect anything. I don't expect anybody to go to jail. But what I think is that it's about time. I'm sick of being up there for 8 years, being ignored on criminal justice issues. And again, we've got massive problems. We got people dying in prison. We got people being stabbed all the time. We've got rapes that I believe being covered up. We got people that's being locked in showers being covered up. We got kids being taken away from families that ought not to be taken away. We got crimes that are not being investigated. You know what? We're in a hell of a mess.
We got some inmate on inmate fights, a bunch of those, and some of the guys got the heck beat out of them. But Bob, we got an obligation as a state to keep the inmates safe. That's
Bob,
our obligation.
I got emails. I got an email the other day three or four emails, I think. And there was one guy that they warned him that something's going to happen to him. And he got stabbed right when he got off the bus. He no more got, they moved him to a different yard, but he got killed as soon as he got to the yard. Had another guy beat up that according to the email, they wanted him beat up. They said beat him up. The administration did. And now, whether that's true or not, but I got that email. Got another email, guy that they took a pipe and beat his testicles. Now, they said to the size of pineapples. That seems a little extreme, but I mean, hey, either way, that's a bad deal if that happened. And then had another guy beat and just beat down and head split open and again left there. So, I mean, I got four of those right now.
Well, we've got one facility that's had 26 stabbings since June.
Yeah.
I've never seen it so dangerous like it is now.
Did they have a person killed at the private?
No.
It wasn't CO that got killed?
No, I don't think anybody got killed.
Really? Because I got a report that they had an officer stabbed. I don't know if it's true.
He got stabbed, but he didn't die.
So was it 3 officers got stabbed or just 1 officer? I think we lost
stories. And they don't send us the records like they used to, so they want to cover it up.
Right. Well, I've gotten 2 different reports. I got 1 officer stabbed, and then I got 3 officers stabbed. So I don't know. I don't know what's the truth.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know there was a stabbing in yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah, that was Lawton.
Well, there was another stabbing.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Somewhere else, I think. Yeah, and I have to go back and look. There's so many of them you can't keep track of them anymore. These guys, this fights on the inmate and the inmate on officers.
Right.
And these guys are saying they try to put them back in their cell. They refuse. And they get their way. The inmate does, and they don't go back to their cell. They leave them alone. Well, hey, we need to cut her out here. So why don't you take us home?
All right. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap it up. We're proud to bring you everything that we try to tell you and keep you informed. Right now, it looks like, again, that we need to look into this DH situation. We need to find out, are they illegally collecting the money? It sure looks like it. Sure looks like the appellate court told them that. Did they purposely set up an account to actually appears what kind of would be a laundering scheme? Was that done on purpose? Who was all involved in setting that up? As Bob pointed out, it wasn't just them. Again, I think that it's I think it needs to be looked into, and I think it deserves answers. And at the end of the day, are people being locked up on stuff illegally because the DA is illegally collecting fees? So if I'm being locked up for not paying an illegal fee, am I being improperly locked up? Great questions. I think the AG needs to look into this, needs to answer it, and I think the Oklahoma citizens deserve to hear it. So I'm going to put it out there, and I think get it out in front of everybody. And so if you hear that J.J. Humphrey's a dirty SOB from many of that group, they're probably right. But at the end of the day, I think that it's a good deal anyway. So, Bob,
hey, the deal on the bus is, it just dawned on me that, yeah, we do have a bus that picks them up and takes them down there. But I think we have some sheriffs that takes them there because they didn't want to wait for the bus.
Yeah, Bob, it's both.
Well, thank you, JJ. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all have a very, very good weekend, what's left of it, and we hope to see you again next weekend. Catch you later.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.